Hi, this is Connie Carswell, and this is going to be my very first video tutorial. And before I start, I really have to send a very special thank you to Cheryl Ann Spinelli, without whom I would not be on Pinterest or Facebook or anywhere online, really. Without her encouragement and support, I think I would still be home looming in my closet. And I also have to thank Kate Schultz. Without her encouragement and convincing me that I was good enough to post videos, I wouldn't be making this video or any other. So I really need to thank Kate. And also a very, very special thank you to Jen. She's my go-to gal for anything and everything technical. She's helped me set up all of my accounts, and I really would be lost without her. So ladies, thank you so much for your support, encouragement, and faith in me, I guess. So without further ado, today we are going to be looming Zach from Big Brother 16. Hi everybody, it's Connie Carswell. This is going to be my very first video tutorial, and today I am going to loom Zach from Big Brother 16. I'm not sure if you're following the show or not. Normally I would have already made a character, and this time I haven't, so we're going to do this together and cross my fingers that my design works out. Let's get started. I'm going to show you the bands that I'm using. I have got a dark blue, black, white, light blue, skin tone, and pink. I always start by looming the attachments first, so I'm going to start with the arms, and I'm going to put 2 dark blue bands 5 spaces up from the bottom. So I'm going to start on the 6th peg up from the bottom and go down to the 5th peg up from the bottom. And then I'm going to put 2 light blue bands. Now these light blue bands, I don't have any light blue bands, and these ones are rainbow braid glow in the dark bands. But they're the only light blue I have, and I don't have very many, so I will be using those ones just to match the shirt that's in the picture. 2 skin tone bands, followed by 2 more skin tone bands. I'm going to wrap a single skin tone band around the peg 3 times. Putting it on counts as 1, 2, 3. And because I haven't already done this, I'm going to do the second arm as well. 2 dark blue bands, 2 light blue bands, 2 dark blue bands, 2 skin tone, and 2 more skin tone. And we will cap that with a single skin tone band wrapped 3 times. And then we can loop this. I'm going to assume that everybody knows the general basics of looping, or looming, some people call it. So I'm going to loop to the top. There we go. I am now going to take a spare crochet hook, and I'm just going to pull these off the loom and I will set these aside. And now I'm going to make the ears and the nose, and for that I'm going to use skin tone bands. I'm going to take a single skin tone band and wrap it around my hook 3 times. Putting it on counts as 1, same as when you put it on the pegs. 2, 3. And I'm going to thread it on a double loop skin tone band. And to get a double loop skin tone band, I'm going to take it, cross it over itself, making a figure 8, fold it on itself, and then thread it onto the bands that are on my hook. And that's one ear. To make the second ear, again, take a single skin tone band, wrap it around 3 times, a second skin tone band, double it, and thread it onto those bands. And that's my ears. I'm going to put those on my holding hook. Slide them on. And now for the nose, I'm going to take a single skin tone band, double it, wrap it around my hook 2 times, take another skin tone band, double it, and thread these bands onto the ones on the hook. And that will give me my nose. I'm going to put it on the holding hook. I have to do the attachments for the legs, and for that I'm going to need skin tone bands, and I'm going to put 2 skin tone bands from the 3rd peg up from the bottom, and from the, that's the 4th peg up from the bottom, and then the 3rd peg up from the bottom, so 2 sets. Same thing on the other side. 2 skin tone bands, followed by 2 skin tone bands, and then I'm going to use pink for his boat shoes. 2 skin tone bands and 2 skin tone bands, and I will cap these with a single pink band wrapped 1, 2, 3 times around the peg. Same thing on the other side, 1, 2, 3 times around the peg. And now I will loop these. You may notice that on my Instagram page I have my name as Litty Carson, and there is quite a long story to that, and hopefully someday I will be able to fill you in on how I came about getting that name. I'm going to set these on my holding hook. I'm going to put them on the and set these aside. For the eyes, I'm going to take 1 white band, double it, and I have my e-beads here, and they are thread on what is the grass that you put in Easter baskets. I find it's the best that I've found, that it's lasted. I haven't used anything else in the whole time in the past 4 or 5 months that I've been looming, and it takes a very long time to fray. All I've had to do is kind of cut it back every once in a while, cut like a centimeter off, but I still have lots of room. I'm going to tuck the end of the floss through my bands, and then I'm going to thread one of the E-beads onto the end and slide it down and onto the white bands. And then I'm going to remove my floss and get my hook and put both ends of the white bands onto my hook. I'm going to leave that on the hook, grab my second white band, double it, again thread the end of my floss through, slide an E-bead onto the end, this part can be tricky, so if you prefer to use a black band, I will show you how to do that. And tuck both ends of the white band onto my hook. And then I will thread both of these onto a single skin tone band. And then I'm going to put this on my holding hook as well. Now, if you would prefer to just use a black band, what you would do is take your band, wrap it around your hook 6 times, take a white band, double it, and thread all of these loops onto the white band. If I wasn't using E-beads for the eyes, I probably would find out for sure what color Zach's eyes are, and I would use that color for his eyes, but because I'm using black E-beads, that's the only color I have, so that's what color eyes he'll get. But perhaps instead of a black band at this point, if I were using bands, I would use the actual color of his eyes. So I've thread my black band on. I'm going to put both ends up on my hook. I would make another one of these and thread both of them onto a single skin tone band, as I did with the E-beads. So now that we have the attachments done, we're ready to band our loom. And for that, I'm going to start with the hair, and I will put 2 black bands. Everything is double banded, so I'm going to put 2 black bands from the first to the second peg in the middle. From the first peg in the middle to the first peg on the left. And I will go down 2 times with 2 black bands on the left, and then from the first peg in the center to the first peg on the right, and again down 2 times with 2 bands each on the right. And now I will put skin tone bands two skin tone bands down the middle 3 times, two skin tone bands down the left, 2 skin tone bands down the right. Now I'm going to close off the face by putting 2 skin tone bands from the 4th peg down on the left to the 5th peg down on the right, or in the center, and from the center pin up to the 4th peg on the right. And now I'm going to put 3 bands for the neck. It makes it more stable and secure. And now we're moving on to the shirt. I'm going to put 2 light blue bands, 2 dark blue bands from the 6th peg down the center to the 7th peg on the left, and 2 dark blue bands from the 6th peg down the center to the 7th peg on the right. And then I will put 2 light blue bands down the left, 2 dark blue bands on the left, two light blue bands on the left, and 2 dark blue bands on the left. Now for the right side, 2 light blue bands, 2 dark blue bands, 2 light blue bands, and 2 dark blue bands. Going down the center, we want 2 dark blue bands, 2 light blue bands, followed by 2 dark blue bands. Now we're ready for the shorts, which are white. So I'm using white bands. I am going to go down 3 times. To 3 times down the left. 3 times down the right. Two times in the center. And to close off the shorts, I'm going to put 2 white bands from the 3rd peg up from the bottom in the center to the 4th peg up from the bottom on the left, and the same thing on the other side, 3rd peg up in the center to the 4th peg up on the right. I'm going to put a white single band wrapped 3 times around the center peg. Now we're ready for holding bands. I will give you a chance to see how I've loomed this. I'll pick up my white background there, might be easier. So going down from the top, I have 2 black bands going to the outsides, 2 black bands going down 1 time in the center and 2 times on the outsides. Skin tone bands, I have 2 skin tone bands going down 3 times down the center, 1 time on either side, closing off the face from either side to the center, 3 bands for the neck, 2 dark blue bands, followed by 2 light blue bands from the left to the center to the right, 2 dark blue bands, left, center, right, 2 light blue bands, left, center, right, 2 dark blue bands, left, center, and right, followed by 3 white bands going down the left, 3 white bands going down the right, 2 white bands once in the center, and closing off the shorts or the legs with 2 white bands from the left and then 2 white bands to the right. And now we will add our holding bands. So at the top, I'm going to put a upside down triangle from the top 2 on the outside to the 2nd peg down in the center. I will use a skin tone band again in an upside down triangle on the next 2 pegs. The second peg's on the outside to the third peg on the inside. I am going to skip the next one because that's where the eyes will be attached, and I will put a right side up triangle from the 4th peg down to the 4th peg in the center. And now we will move down here, and I will add a dark blue band in a triangle shape from the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yes I can count, 7 pegs down to the 7th peg in the center. Same thing on the left side, the 7th peg to the 7th peg in the center. And we will add a light blue band for the next triangle. And a dark blue band. Followed by a white band. And these holding bands on the shirt and the body part are all upright triangles. Now we can add our attachments. So I have my legs on here first at the end of my hook. Just going to slide them off onto my other hook. And I will add these to the bottom. And one on the left side and one on the right side. And then to attach the eyes, I am going to put the eyes from the 3rd peg down on the left across to the 3rd peg down on the right, and I'm going to separate the eyes and grab a hold of the band, one of the 2 bands between the eyes, and stretch it up over the 3rd peg from the top in the center. And I will just pull these eyes over to the front. Can adjust them after it's loomed as well. And here is where you would attach the nose on the 4th peg down. I like to attach my nose differently, so if you're more comfortable attaching it now, go right ahead, and it goes on the 4th peg down. And I'm just going to set my nose onto my hook, and I will leave it there out of the way. And now I will attach the 2 ears, and they go on the 2nd peg down from the bottom, and same thing on the other side. The 2nd peg down from the bottom. And now I need to attach the arms. I'm going to put these onto my hook. And one arm will go on the right side, on the 6th peg down, and the other arm will go on the other side. And now we're ready to loom. We're going to double check that we have all of our holding bands on. A black one, upside down triangle, skin tone, the eye bands across the 3rd peg down on each row, an upright triangle on the 4th peg, upright triangle on the 7th in dark blue, and then light blue, and then dark blue, and then white. So the first part I'm going to loom is here in the middle, and I'm going to make sure I get inside my holding band, and I'm going to grab the top 2 bands and loop to the outside. And again, I'm going to assume that everybody knows the basics of looming. So now I'm going to go down to the bottom of the left and loop up. And I'm going to go all the way to the neck, praying that my bands don't break. I might share with you the most common mistake that I make when I'm making my characters. Now I've looped up to the neck, so now I'm going down to the bottom on the right, and I will do the same thing on this side. And as I was saying, the most common mistakes that I make repeatedly, unfortunately, are I forget to add the holding bands, or I forget to loop bands. And forgetting the holding bands won't necessarily make your figure fall apart as much as forgetting to loop bands will, but it won't keep it together and keep the shape that you want it to if you forget the holding bands. And it seems to not matter as many times as I tell myself I'm going to check and make sure I have all of the holding bands on and that I have looped every band. I always seem to forget something. So I'm going to reach in here and grab the top 2 bands, and they're going to go to the right. The next 2 bands are going to the left. And now I want to grab a single skin tone band, and I'm going to wrap it around my hook 2 times. And I'm going to grab the 2 bands, and I'm going to slide these 2 loops onto these bands that are going up and around the next peg. And that's going to represent his mouth. And I will reach in and do the same thing with my nose. I'm going to slide it onto those bands and loop up over the next peg. Now, if you've already attached your nose to this peg, just stretch these bands over the peg and around your nose that's on here already. And now I am going to loop up the left side, being careful to stay inside the eye bands and the holding bands. And going all the way to the center. Same thing on the right side. Staying inside all of these bands. And I will finish off the center row. And now what I want to do is take a black band, and I am going to put my hook in through the peg all the way through to the other side, grab a hold of that black band, pull it through, and I'm just going to make a slip knot. And I'm not going to pull it too tight because it will break. And now I'm going to remove this from the loom starting at the bottom. If I had just taken it from the top and pulled it off, it tends to stretch it. So I like to remove them from the bottom so that they keep their shape as best they can. And like I said, I typically forget to check. I'm going to hope that these were all loomed properly, and now I'm just checking to make sure that every other band is looped properly. And I will continue. And where I have more bands, like around the neck area, I'm going to put my hook inside and pull them off that way. And the rest of them should be relatively easy to come off. Last one. And so this is what it's going to look like when you first take it off. We just have to tweak it a little bit. So I'm going to stretch it out, make sure his eyes are to the front. And fix his ear a little bit. I'm going to put my hook in through all 3 bands. And I'm just going to roll it around a little bit to even them out. There we go. And make sure his nose is positioned properly. Pull his mouth down a little bit. And squeeze in his hips a little bit. Now I would like for his arms to not be stuck straight out. So I'm going to put my hook into the teardrop of the dark blue bands at the shoulder and just pull down. And that's going to stretch the bands a little bit and make the arm point downwards. And same thing on the other side, putting my hook in through the teardrop and I'm pulling down. Okay, and the same thing with the feet. I would like for his shoes to be pointing outward. So I'm going to put my hook in and turn the foot. Same thing on the other side. Put my hook in and turn the hook. So his feet are going to either side. I'm squeezing in here at the waist just a little bit. I did not double the bands because he doesn't have a very defined waist. I'm just squeezing it a little bit to give it a little bit more definition, but not as much as would occur if I had have double banded the holding band at the waist. And I think I would like to make him waving, so I'm going to stick my hook into the dark blue bands at the elbow and pull, and that will bend his arm up a little bit to make him look like he's waving. I'm just going to fix the eyes a little bit so they're facing more front. And for the mouth, I'm going to reach in and grab those 2 bands and just tighten them up a little bit to tighten the bands on the mouth until they have the shape that I like for his lips. There we go, and I'm going to tuck the slipknot band into the back and out of sight. I'm just reaching into some bands and pulling the end through to secure it in the back. You can fasten that with a C-clip if you want to a band in the back, but I don't think it's necessary. They usually stay pretty well just looped through the back. And again, I'm going to fix his eyes and his mouth a little bit. there we go. And this is Zach from Big Brother 16. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please comment below. Good, bad, indifferent, constructive criticism is most welcome. And thank you so much for watching, and please look for my next video tutorial, which will be Frankie from Big Brother 16.